So welcome everyone. I'm Patty Comfort, the Executive Director of the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts. Karen just asked me to give sort of a quick intro and why this celebration of student-led civics projects is such an important priority for the statewide league. So I'll just take a couple minutes to talk about that. Karen Mazza has been very capably representing the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts on the Massachusetts Civics Learning Coalition. The LWVMA has been a member of that coalition for a number of years now. And I think people know that that was the organization, the coalition that spearheaded the advocacy that resulted in 2018 in passing the new civics law, which is requiring a full civics course for 8th graders.
We fully intend to complete by 8:30.
The new law requires a full civics course for 8th graders, as well as requiring a student-led civics project for 8th graders and also high schoolers. So fast forward from 2018 to the spring of 2021, and Karen approached me with the idea that the LWVMA replace what we had been doing on an annual basis, which was running a student video contest, that we replace that with a more substantive effort, which was directly related to the new civics law and the new curriculum requirement, and find a way to have local leagues engaging with the local schools in their areas to highlight and celebrate the work of the students on their student-led civics project. So for many reasons, this was a wonderful and brilliant idea, not the least of which was the fact that all public schools this is required in all public schools. And what was tending to happen with our annual video contest is we were only tended to get submissions from the well-resourced public high schools and also the very well-resourced private high schools. And this did not particularly jive with our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So for this reason and many others, it really made sense for the league at the statewide level to focus on the law that it had helped pass and work on and celebrate what is happening in the curriculum, in 8th grade and in high school. So Karen, once again, very capably pulled together a group of local league leaders to discuss, what could we do at the state level to give local leagues the tools they needed to approach the schools in their areas and talk about how they could work together to celebrate and showcase the student-led civics project. So that group was amazing. They met for about between 4 and 6 months and really put together. We ended up putting together a really great toolkit. Again, Karen led that group so wonderfully. And we had a handful of leagues who did do a local showcase for the student-led civics projects this past spring. So that sort of brings us up to the present day. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to really hear from a few of our local leagues on how they were able to support their schools last spring. And also to help other leagues share their questions about how to get started and work on plans that, that they might be interested in taking this up for the spring of 2023. So Karen's going to get us started by talking about the toolkit that we've prepared and a little bit about the Cape Cod area league's experience. And then we're going to hear from Mary Sterling and Susan Frey of the Concord Carlisle League, and also Karen Price from Needham and Judy Finkel from Worcester. So they're going to talk about what their leagues, what their experience was this past spring. After that, we're going to update you on the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's plan for a statewide civics showcase. The inaugural statewide showcase is being planned for the spring of 2023. And at that point, we're going to open it up for discussion from all of you in the audience. So while we're timing ourselves and hoping to finish the presentation with enough time for questions, we might go over time if there are more questions. So obviously, if you need to leave, please leave. But if you're still wanting to ask a question, we will still hang around and answer those questions. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Thanks, Patty. The toolkit we have prepared to help local leagues with this project is called the School Civics Celebration Project Toolkit, and you can find it on the LWVMA website under the drop-down menu section under Toolkits. There are several helpful resources there which you can review on your own. Within the toolkit, the overview of School Civics Celebration Project for 2022 to 23 invites local leagues to develop a partnership with your local school district to support some kind of celebration of the student projects. It describes a flexible approach, allowing you to partner and develop a plan that's would work for your school partners. So I'm going to walk you through a different document in the toolkit titled Options for Local League Support of Student-Led Civics Projects, shown on the screen. This is intended to be a menu of options that leagues can discuss with schools. Schools can identify the options that they would find the most helpful. You can share this document with whomever is your contact with the school or district. Just to review, all schools housing a grade 8 are required to make these projects available to students. All high schools are also required to make the project available in an additional grade above grade 8, and this grade varies among districts. On the left column, you will see the 6 stages of civic projects. This is taken from DESE's guidebook to student-led civics projects. The options column on the right are ideas about supports that local leagues may wish to offer as a menu for the schools you are working with. While our celebration project encourages leagues to help schools with the ending showcase part of the student project, it is possible for leagues to also provide assistance at the beginning and middle stages of the projects. This chart gives ideas for how to do that. While I am explaining those options, I will share some examples of the Cape Cod Area League's work with Barnstable High School. In stage 1, students explore issues important to them, their family, or community. I have heard from some teachers that one challenge is to help expand student awareness of community issues. So if requested, leagues can share information about those issues, especially as they relate to youth. Leagues can make a recording to discuss those issues and share it with classes to be shown at a time of their choosing. Similarly, they can record the town manager or mayor explaining issues. In stage 2, students vote on the issue they will select. Some classes have multiple projects done by small groups. Some classes have one issue for the whole class. In stage 3, students research the issue and understand its root causes so that they can identify solutions. Here, leagues can share resource information about local organizations or government offices that can provide background information. The Cape Cod Area League developed a Cape Cod Civic Resource Directory for that purpose, organized by topic with some suggested issues. I have heard from some teachers that when students reach out to local officials, the wait time for a response or receiving no response is very frustrating. To pave the way for building awareness of these projects, we have placed a sample letter to send to local officials that schools can use to give them a heads up students will be contacting them. I modeled this off of a DESE letter that reaches out to state legislators to help them get a heads up. Leagues can also help with follow-up phone calls if desired. In stage 4, students develop an action plan. The Needham League developed a guide to advocacy and a set of videos that focus on advocacy. A link to those resources is on this sheet, and the Needham League has graciously offered to share those resources with any of the local leagues that would like to use them. In stage 5, students begin to implement their action plan. In stage 6, they showcase their final projects. Here, leagues can serve as judges if the school wants it to be a judged event, or we can simply be an audience sharing discussion, appreciation, and constructive feedback with students. We can help this to be a celebratory event with awards or recognition. In the case of Barnstable High School, they organized the showcase event in a science fair format themselves and invited local officials and league members. We talked with students about their projects, and we were invited to be a part of the ceremony, giving certificates to students selected by the school. The certificates were from LWVMA and our local league and will be available in our toolkit. Lastly, in the toolkit, I have placed an invitation for an optional high school student-led civics project on youth voting. It is formatted to coincide with the 6 stages of a civics project. I did this to be a league-assisted project if a school is interested. It stems from the Growing Voters Report and the webinar the Cape League offered on expanding the youth vote. We're offering this to other leagues in the event that you would like to share this as an option with schools that you work with. Thanks very much for listening, and now it is time to listen to the experience of the 3 other featured leagues. We'll begin with Mary Sterling and Susan Frey of Concord Carlisle.
Okay, well, I guess we're going to be moving to our slideshow. Is that, can you do that, Karen? And then, because we're going to introduce ourselves as part of that. Oh, okay. Welcome to Concord's 8th grade student showcase. Next slide. I'm Susan Fry, chair of the Civics Education Committee.
And I'm Mary Sterling, the taller one, a member of the committee.
And the third one, the smallest one, is one of our wonderful students from who was talking about Ukraine. Okay, next slide. So we want to give you a little bit of background. Since 2018, our local league has slowly built a strong relationship with the Concord Middle School. Without question, the league's nonpartisan policy opened the door for us. And then each fall, we began to request a meeting with the social studies teachers to see how we could be of service and then map out ways we could help. Prior to the showcase, we had taught a lesson on the history of voting rights. And then during the pandemic, we arranged Zoom question and answer sessions with our state rep and other types of things that responded to needs that the teachers let us know about. So then last fall, when we shared the idea of a student showcase, the teachers told us that they were definitely interested and welcomed our support. To prepare for that showcase, we met monthly with the teachers. League volunteers spent over 40 hours helping students work on their projects, and teachers welcomed our expertise about local resources. Next slide, please. This flyer was part of the publicity plan that we organized for the event. The principal appreciated our help drawing a steady stream of visitors to the 3-hour showcase. Okay, Mary?
Next slide, please. So here's some ingredients for success. The teachers really believed in student-led civics projects and crafted good scaffolding, and students cared about their topic, eager to explain to visitors in detail, and visitors often commented, the students are so engaged, and they're at the end of their 8th grade year. In the early spring, students were given a choice of participating in the showcase, and the teachers gave specific criteria for participants to meet above and beyond the regular expectations for the civics projects for all students. And the teachers guessed, well, maybe about 25 kids would participate. No, 70 kids decided to take up the extra criteria and do the showcase. We selected the showcase very date early with the principal, but had to change it later in April because we needed to find a place for parking on an early release day. Just a detail that makes the difference. Visitors included middle school teachers, school administrators, league members, select board member, neighbors, friends, and at pickup time when the parents came to get the 8th graders, they came early and they went and they visited a lot of the displays. They were just so impressed that 8th graders could do such research and present in such a compelling way. Next slide, please. We're going to show you some photos.
This photo captures the moment just before the start of the event. there was 70 students busy putting their trifolds up, 70 trifolds blowing in the wind, and lots of duct tape as they tried to make sure that their wonderful presentations could be shown to the visitors. Mary?
Next slide, please. The teaching team planned carefully to guide all the students through this project with designated class time and check-in criteria over several months. And each student in the Concord Middle School had to have 4 components you can see in this display. On the left-hand column, you see identity. In the middle column, you see research question. And then this one was, what are the racial biases in death penalty sentencing? Also in the middle panel, the third component had to be supporting and opposing views of the topic. I think that's really important. And then finally, on the left-hand column, you see the title Civic Action, and the students in the showcase had to display information about their civic actions. They were required to do 2 if they were going to showcase. Next slide, please.
We were amazed and inspired by the variety of project topics. Some were book banning, eliminating the pink tax, which many of us had never heard of, wildlife relocation, and racism. Next slide.
Here's the team that collaborated. We have visually here the superintendent, assistant superintendent, principal. Whoops, back to the previous photo.
Sorry, I was admitting somebody.
That's okay. The 3 social studies teacher who were awesome, a student, and me and Susan. And we feel that this connection that we maintained through the year of keeping people up to date and involving them was really crucial to the success of this event. And just to see that superintendent grin and say, I love this, was terrific.
Okay. So as you can see, the event was a big success, and we are excited teachers want to organize the second showcase this spring. After debriefing with teachers in June, we learned 3 important lessons. The first is League volunteers with educational experience bring valuable skills needed to help students with their projects. The second, and an especially important one, is to remind guests to be kind and gentle as they interact with 8th graders who are still learning how to present. A few students felt criticized and overwhelmed by visitors' comments. Visitors did not intend to be critical. They just treated the students as young adults rather than sensitive and fragile 8th graders. The third lesson is one that we hope to host an additional showcase in Boston for Medco families. For Medco families,
never mind.
if possible, in collaboration with other Medco communities. Let's see, next slide, please. And so in conclusion, we look forward to showcasing a new crop of civics projects and student leaders, and we invite you all to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Susan and Mary. We're going to go next to Karen Price. And before we do that, I'd just like to remind everybody to please mute your selves while you're listening to this program. Thank you. Karen Price.
Thank you.
And my pocketbook is my,
Somebody's
so
not
I
muted.
don't have my.
Someone doesn't realize that they're not muted.
Very
Please
frustrating
mute.
to you. Hope this doesn't.
Okay, I think you got it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm here from the League of Women Voters of Needham. And the league worked with Needham High School. So we did the high school, the 11th graders. We started, we had been doing a civics bee, and that kind of ran its course, and we decided this would be where we would put our civics efforts for the future. And we formed a committee of 4 league members for planning. Jen Muroff was our chair. One league member was also a Needham High history teacher. If you can arrange that, that is great. I know that it's a unique, possibly fairly unique advantage we had. We developed 8 short videos and a student advocacy guide, which Karen mentioned earlier and gave the website. They're posted on our website. These are the 8 videos which cover types of lobbying here, types of advocacy really, and then Needham, and then for our Metco students, we wanted to get a Boston City Councilor. We had a lot of trouble getting somebody to do it. We did get Lydia Edwards, who is also a state senator, and then our own representatives, Senator Becca Rausch and Representative Denise Garlick. As Karen said, these are available. You can link to them. You can do whatever you want. They're on our League of Women Voters of Needham Facebook, channel, and also on our website. Easy to find. Pick out the ones you like. The advocacy guide is designed to be either viewed online or printed, and it's sort of based on advocacy guides from LWVMA and other things, but we geared it toward students. There's also, if you want the Word file for this, just ask me. You can substitute Needham government with whatever government and do your own, or take the sections you like and make it your own. You'll see later, I'm going to show you a video that students, we were very gratified that students did look at this guide because they said some of the things that they did. So then the showcase itself that was all before, those were posted on April 1st. The showcase was June 11th. So between April 1st and June 11th, the students worked on their projects. In between there were, COVID surges and all kinds of things happening. But like Concord Carlisle, we got way more students than we expected. And 100 was about the maximum we could fit. So that was good. Students completed a Google form to sign up. Teachers agreed to give extra credit, which I think was key. Our attendees included our state rep Denise Garlick, our state senator Becca Rausch came late because she had other things going on. Select board members, I think all of them, the high school principal, the school superintendent, lots of town meeting members and school committee members. And it was pretty well attended. The Needham channel produced a news piece, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think that the producer of this did a very nice job capturing the spirit. And I was just watching it again and I enjoyed it.
Teams of 11th grade students from Needham High School presented 50 civics projects to the public on Saturday, June 11th in Powers Hall at Town Hall. Massachusetts requires all high school students to select a state or local issue and prepare an advocacy plan. The League of Women Voters of Needham and the school's Social Studies Department co-sponsored Saturday Showcase so the students can share what they think is important directly with policymakers and other community members. Municipal producer Yushao Yuan has the report.
Used data, facts, and graphics to articulate their positions on real-world issues ranging from healthcare, public safety, education, to environment and gender equity. Many chose to bring awareness to current bills on Beacon Hill.
We're advocating for universal pre-kindergarten access.
I am advocating for Bill S-322, an act relative to substance use education in public schools.
We're advocating for Bill S-1912, which is an act to make childcare and preschool more affordable for working families.
We want people who are arrested for drug-related crimes to be sent to rehab instead of prison.
This bill advocates for climate action by having the Commonwealth transition to 100% renewable energy or 100% clean energy by 2035 and 100% carbon neutrality in the building and transportation sector by 2045.
We're supporting Bill S-1445, which is a bill that aims to increase access to menstrual products in prisons, homeless shelters, and schools by making them free.
Some voiced opposition to lawmakers' proposals.
We are advocating that minor minimum wage for kids 18 and under should not be lowered to $11.
Some were passionate about advocating for nationwide changes, such as gun control reform.
We really have to voice our opinions and make sure it's known that we want these changes, that we need to see these changes, because we're the future of gun laws, and we really need to do our part to make sure that we see the change that we want to see.
Others focused on local topics.
Our group is advocating for more affordable housing in Needham, whether that's adding units that are funded federally or putting more restrictions on what can be done in terms of contracting and tearing down homes in Needham.
We're advocating for a composting initiative at Needham High School to be implemented. We were also hoping to purchase these compostable utensils and trays. They are compostable themselves, which means you can just toss them right into the compost with your kitchen waste.
The Civics Education Reform Bill became a state law in 2018, which intends to give young people hands-on practice in how the political system works.
This is a key aspect of being a citizen, is learning how to ask for what you want. So when in later life there's something that they don't like, they will know how to take action through the political system to try to get the change that they're looking for.
Students need to not only study the topics, but also explore ways of advocacy.
One thing we did was we sent an email to Denise Garlick, and we also created an Instagram page with a petition. And it was just like really cool to see all the ways that you can like get your message across and like reach people.
I had no idea what grassroots advocacy was or a letter to the editor, and they also told us that the best way to reach out to our legislators is through Twitter, so I might download a Twitter and start using that.
When I think advocacy, I think big organizations, big campaigns, but it's really easy to just kind of do it on your own as long as you want to, like, if you're passionate about what you support, it's not hard to start something.
Many students said talking to state and local officials at the showcase was a big encouragement.
It's really cool to talk to different people and like share information that we've researched for such a long time, and we got to talk to Denise Garlick, which was really interesting. So we got to hear her perspective and like her suggestions and ideas as well, which was really cool.
Even though we feel like we have a small voice as a student, we're just one of hundreds of thousands of students in Massachusetts. We can make a difference through our advocacy projects.
We've gotten so many resources today already for what action we could take next, that it makes me have faith in like our system.
Many town meeting members from the select board and the school committee came to hear what Needham young people care about. State Representative Denise Garlick was impressed by the depth of students' works.
At a time when there is a concern around how we address big issues, around the way we speak to each other on issues, I have gone from table to table and met young people who have taken on big issues, who have researched them, who understand the pros and cons, and who have staked out a position, not only to defend their position, but to really think about where's the obstacle to that, where's the barrier to that. It's good to have a position, but if you want to have a solution, you have to find the barriers, and then you have to work to get past those barriers. And at table after table after table, I saw that thought process.
For Needham Channel News, I'm Yu Xiaoyuan.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, and just as I was just going to say, as far as lessons learned quickly, I can't believe Concord had a 3-hour. We had a 2-hour one, and we decided to cut it to an hour and a half this year. We are going to do it again this year. We've already picked a date. And we did a student evaluation afterwards last time, and we only got 4. So we're going to make sure to do, believe it or not, a printed student evaluation and collect them as they leave.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, let me just backtrack a little bit. Our local chapter has a committee called Voter Registration and Community Engagement. And when we learned about the League's interest in partnering with local schools, we decided that this would be a good opportunity for us to engage in our community. And I volunteered to start us off. And so last spring, I contacted our superintendent, who was a person whom I knew and whom I had worked with. And she was very pleased with the idea and directed us to the liaison the central office liaison for social studies and history. And I chatted with her, and at the time, after the pandemic and all the confusion, there was only one school in Worcester that was at that time committed to doing civic education. And so she directed us to the Forest Grove Middle School. Other schools were not doing it. And it turns out that this at this time is still the only school that is specifically focused on teaching a class on civic education. As of starting this year, all the 8th grade history classes and the high school US history classes are embedding in their civics education. But Forest Grove decided that they were going to make civic ed part of their enrichment rotation. So the teacher, Sean Degnan, teaches 4 10-week sessions specifically of civic education, which gives them a chance to just be devoted solely to this, to follow through on the process. So we started last year. We had our first showcase, and it was his 4th quarter class. And, they follow through on the whole process of identifying a project, doing the research, coming up with action plans, reaching out to the community, and then holding a showcase. And together with the league, we organized a showcase. And of course, as league members, we wanted to support them in any way we could. So we said, do you need us to help you with poster boards? At which time they said, oh no, everything is electronic. They used all videos and PowerPoint. So they presented in that way. We held our first showcase last June in the library. All 4 of his classes presented. But I would rather, and we had state and local officials attending. We had our city clerk attend. We had Mass Audubon people attend because one of the groups was working on climate change. And we had obviously members of the league, retired school administrators, and just friends. But I'd like to tell you a little bit more about this year. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to tell you about the first of the 4 10-week sessions, their first showcase, which was held at the beginning of this month. It's interesting how this is an inner city school, and it ranges from, kids from, who are very inner city to, middle class students. It's quite diverse. And he has quite a variety of students, but as a teacher, he's able to engage the kids to do just about anything. So he held his first, we held the first showcase, and I'd like to just point out some of the topics that the kids were researching. They got interested in Vote 16. And so they did the research on that, and they contacted some school committee members who came out to school to meet with them to be able to help them work on their project and see what kind of action plan they could engage in. There was a group of students who was concerned about food insecurity. They researched food insecurity, and then they went to the school committee and presented to them about food insecurity and the overuse of plastics in the Worcester Public Schools, including what's used in the lunchrooms and water bottles. So they presented directly to the school committee. And then did meet again with school committee meetings back at school after that to determine what they could do. We had a group that was interested in water pollution, and we have a local lake, and they did try to figure out how they can do a cleanup, but were not able to get the proper resources from the city to do it. Well, let me just backtrack. While addressing food insecurity, they also tried to figure out how they could have healthy food snack vending machines in school. And while they were presenting, we polled all the students about school lunches, what they liked, what they didn't like, what changes they would like. And at that point, we did have a school committee person there who took very good notes. And we also had the director of our local food bank. One of the concerns they have is that the school is on a pretty public street, and they were worried about traffic safety. And so they did contact the city council chair of traffic and parking, and she was at the showcase to address issues. And they decided that it's the end of the 10 weeks, they're done, but one of the students wanted to continue. And so his father is presenting the petition to the school department. And then there was a group that's just through compassion was concerned about the homeless, and they organized food drives, coat drives, and sock drives, and gave us all of the background information. So I wanted to point that out to show you how in an inner city school, kids have a variety of actions. They researched incredibly well and did come up with action plans. However, what we noted that, there are a number of challenges. The one major challenge is that it's 10 weeks. When the 10 weeks is over, the students go on to their next rotation. And what happens to the project that they had. They did discuss with the principal the possibility of doing after school clubs to be able to continue. And as I said, they did meet with school committee people who were very interested in their ideas and are trying to bring them forward to administrators in the system. I think one of the things that was mentioned by the others is that for some of the students, it's pretty hard when they're researching to get people to get back to them. Worcester, like Boston, is filled with colleges and universities, and they tried to contact, experts in the field, but didn't always get that assistance. So that's one of the things that we want to work on. Let me see what else. So some of those were really just our major. Oh, and another major challenge we have is that we're going to do 4 showcases this year. How do we continue to get the number of people to return over and over again? And we have to fix our timing too. Last June, our timing was better. This time, it was much too long. And we have to organize that, particularly since these classes, they're not doing one class projects, but many students are doing individual projects, they're doing small group projects, and lots of kids are presenting.
Judy, can I encourage you to sort of conclude at this point with a final summary, and we can come back to you in the question and answer.
The one thing that I would like to conclude with is that our state senator is Senator Chandler, and she attends ours, and she continues to work with us despite the fact that her term is up at the end of the year. And one of her main concerns is, and I'll put it out to you because she's trying to figure it out, is she believes the funding provided by the state is not sufficient for all the schools, and she is looking for either foundations or fundraisers who will provide additional funding, particularly for inner city schools. So there we are.
That's great. Thank you. Senator Chandler was a great proponent of this legislation, and she has offered to help the Mass Civic Learning Coalition to work on that funding issue that you've talked about. All of you for sharing your experiences. To save time, I'm going to really reduce what I was going to say next. I just want to alert you to the fact that as part of the legislation, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education is required to put on a state showcase event this year. And they have begun an application process for if schools want to participate in that. I have placed that information in the toolkit, and it is in the document that says Overview of School Civics Celebration Project. You'll find the information from DESE at the end of that document. I want to leave a couple of minutes for Patty to mention how the State League would like to support the state showcase. Patty?
Sure. So we are, as Karen mentioned, involved in the planning of the statewide showcase with DESE and other of our partners in the Mass Civic Learning Coalition. People know about Giving Tuesday, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, when many nonprofits highlight a need that they are fundraising for. And the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts is going to be highlighting fundraising for the Civic Showcase. So I would really appreciate it if folks on this call would interact with our social. If this is a purely social media campaign, we will be posting several times leading up to November 29th. And it's really important that you respond to our posts, share it with people, your own networks, comment on the post. And the idea is to boost the algorithm so that we get as many eyeballs on the post as possible in order to maximize our fundraising capacity. So we have somewhat of a celebrity doing three different videos on 3 different days. So if folks are on social media, if you could look for those posts from the league, the State League, we would really appreciate you interacting with those posts to help us raise money for the statewide showcase.
And if I can add to that, Patty, I think the specific need was that the state is prohibited from using funds on food, but you can't put on one of these showcase events without feeding the students. And so we thought that we would contribute, Patty's idea was to contribute to the food that would be needed for the showcase events. Great idea. At this time, we'd like to open up to questions, and there's two kinds of comments. One, any questions that you have about doing these projects or follow up with any of the people who've presented. The other thing is also, I encourage you to share your experiences. I know that there were a number of leagues last year that made an initial contact with your local schools, and they weren't ready to do something last year, but maybe you formed a relationship to do something this year. So if you'd like to give us an update, that we'd be glad to hear about that too. So I'm just going to look at the chat and see who's placed questions here, and we'll be calling on you. One person here has asked about the toolbox. The toolbox you can find on the LWVMA state website, and you look at the menu at the top right corner, and you will pull the pull down, and you'll see toolkits, and you'll find us there. Ellen, Church to everyone, what was the most surprising about the process? Who would like to respond to that? Karen?
I think that the number of students that wanted to participate, at one point we were up to like 125 students, but then as time went on, they couldn't all make it, and we ended up with 100. And then just how into it they were, which you could tell from the video. They really, really got into it, as we say.
Okay, Concord, what were you going to say? Mary?
I was going to say the same thing Karen did, that there were more students who wanted to participate than we had guessed. And that was very heartwarming. And then just the level of engagement, Susan and I would look at each other and say, listen to this kid. You know, we just couldn't get over their investment, which really comes back to the original design of the revised curriculum, which is student-led. It needed to be their choice of topic. And I think that had everything to do with their engagement and the skillful work of the teachers scaffolding it.
Deborah Etzel has a question here. Plymouth is having a difficult time getting to the high school teachers. Other than having a teacher on your committee, any suggestions? I'll take that first. I think that it's really helpful to be able to work through the social studies department head or a coordinator. If the social studies department head is not receptive to your involvement, the other possibility is to go through the principal, or to go through at the central office level. If you have a director of curriculum or an assistant superintendent of curriculum, that would be a good person to approach. Some people approach the superintendent. I'd go with where you have a relationship. There is a difference in school districts with the level of support that social studies departments heads have. Some of them have no class release time at all to be doing their job. Some of them have a course reduction of 1 or 2 courses. And some of them, if they're in a larger school district, have a full-time job. And those are some of the reasons why there's a variation in support when you're dealing with the social studies department head. And your follow-up question is, what if the social studies coordinator cannot reach them? Well, you know, in any curriculum change project, there are the people who are the scouts who go out first and they're enthusiastic, and then there are other people who sort of follow behind. When that happens, a good thing to do is to put them in a network where they're able to exchange ideas with other teachers who maybe have gone ahead of them. And so I would suggest two things. One, see if you can pair them with another school district that has been doing this a little bit more. The other is to work with them to explore the resources that are on the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's website. Their history social science coordinators are doing a fantastic job with putting out workshops for teachers in how to do these projects. They have hired some civics fellows who are experienced teachers doing these projects. One thing you as a league can do is offer to connect your coordinator with those civics fellows and help to organize a professional development session that they would do for the Plymouth teachers. I was on a call this week with some teachers in one school district on the Cape, two school districts that were really struggling behind. I also had a teacher who had been working on this for 6 years. He was able to answer their questions for the things that they were perceiving as barriers to doing this work. So that's my suggestion about giving them some stimulation there. Let's see, the link to the toolkit has been placed in the chat. Anybody else have any questions or comments? And that is Joan Cass. Could you unmute so you can?
Yes. First of all, I want to congratulate everybody who's already done this. It was fantastic. You had mentioned coaching before. So many of those young people were really articulate in their presentation, and I wondered if you got involved at all in the coaching of the presentations, or if that was something that was left to the schools.
I know that
we've already done this.
Concord, you spoke to that issue?
Yeah, well, thanks for that question, because we were working with 8th graders, and these were 8th graders who had survived 2 years of COVID. So we really found that these kids at the beginning, when we started working with the presentation skills, they had almost had none, which would normally they would have had more opportunities, but they were home Zoom schooling. So we ended up spending a little bit, the days running up to it, Mary and I came and just gave students time to practice what they were how they were giving kind of their elevator speech, because these were younger kids, but then, and to watch over like a 3-day period, they just absolutely blossomed. And while they weren't high school kids like you saw in the video, they were so articulate, so confident, had so much ownership. And it was like they did need that coaching this year, and the teachers appreciated us coming in and helping.
Thank you.
Judy Finkel.
Yes, I think I would follow up with what Susan had said. The league didn't go in to do any coaching, but as I said before, this is a 10-week class and the teacher is with them every day. And prior to the showcase, he had them practice. And the other thing, that if they were a whole class, if they were a small group, the students chose presenters who were able to present. And, they felt more confident doing it than if all of the students involved in it had done it. But the teacher did practice with them prior to it. And also, the audience did ask questions, and they didn't ask questions only of the presenters, but all of the students, and most of them were able to, give some pretty articulate answers. And to go back to one of the previous questions, I think what we were most impressed about was the quality of their research and their ability to present it, particularly doing it all electronically.
Just to say, the League at Needham didn't have anything to do with coaching the students. That was all done in the classroom. If they did coach, I know And there were like five or six different teachers, so they all had varying degrees of participation in this. And it also depended on whether they taught like the AP and the honors classes.
That was true for Cape Cod Area League. We did not get involved in coaching students. And also we're trying to develop a relationship with several districts on the Cape. So we wouldn't have the bandwidth to be able to do that for each school system. Another idea that occurred to me is I want you to remember that there's the Civic Project Trust Fund, which allows school systems to apply for grants so that they can work with a consultant firm on the staff development that would be helpful to teachers to take on these projects. So Barnstable, for example, did get one of those grants, and that allowed them to train all of their teachers. Dennis Yarmouth got a grant for this school year, and they are also working with the same company. They're working with Generation Citizen to train their teachers. It makes a really big difference when schools have a model that they can follow. It's not necessary, mandatory, but where people seem to be at a loss for where to begin, it really gives them a tremendous jump start to being able to do that. Plymouth, you've got the demographics to be able to apply for one of those grants. They cater really to communities that have more diversity and economic need. And so I'd really work with your social studies coordinator to see if they can apply for a grant this year.
We also got a grant from the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts Sharfman Fund.
Yep. Are there any other questions? The name of that company is Generation Citizen. They are not the only company that provides professional development. If you go to the Mass Civic Learning Coalition website, that is macivicsforall.org, you will see all of the member organizations in that coalition. And many of them put on staff development for schools that would be relevant for these civics projects. Another organization would be iCivics. There's one called Project Citizen. There's Facing History, Facing Ourselves, a variety of companies that they could reach out to. Now, they don't have to. If they just followed the staff development that the State Department of Education is following, that'd put them in good standing also.
So, Karen, there was a question earlier up that I think you might have missed. It just says, is it possible to attend these showcase events?
Oh, yes. I think that any one of us that's putting these on would welcome other leagues to come. It's a way for you to see what's happening and take some ideas back to your own league.
Yeah, we had Joanne, who I think is on the call, from Sharon Stoughton came to ours, and Elizabeth came to ours too.
Karen, I see Sheila Hanley has her hand up.
Okay, Sheila?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to, you've mentioned a lot of different resources, and you know, and some of us have made some contacts with social studies teachers in different districts around us, like on a project to get them involved in something prior that the league offered down the Cape on the importance of voting, and it was a great presentation. So I'm just thinking that, will the toolkit provide, I can see educators being interested, but they probably, is there a way to network so they can talk to other educators who have participated in this already? Like, you know, to create ways in which educators can communicate with other educators who have taken this on. And, you know, I'm just trying to give as much support as I can to anyone who says, yeah, I'm interested, and just wanting to know how to tie all those pieces. You've mentioned some things already about things that are on the website. So does the toolkit kind of put some of this together at all, or?
Well, I give you some links in the toolkit for connecting with the the social studies leads in the Department of Education. What you might want to do via email or just call them is to ask them about what kinds of opportunities for networking among teachers are available through DESE. The DESE, you actually can subscribe to their newsletter. And you do this through the learning standards. I'll send this information out, I think, in a follow-up email to everybody who's been on this call. But when you talk to them, you'll know that they arrange for these networking discussions among teachers. They have been doing this for a couple of years now. The other people who do that is that there is a Social Studies Council, which is the professional association for social studies teachers. They just had a social studies convention for the state, and they had those kinds of meetings there. They also put on those discussions, that association does. So I guess what I'd suggest is talk to those social studies content leads and ask them how to connect your teachers to those opportunities for exchange. In my case, I have been talking, because the Cape is a geographic region, I've been working with school districts and connecting with them via email and sometimes personal meetings for several years. And so I'm regularly sending them some communication, and we're looking for opportunities to connect teachers. I just tried, for example, to see if they would be ready to do a regional showcase. And what I found out is that there's too much variation in the level of experience right now among the districts. There's some that are very experienced and some that are just starting. And so the ones that are just starting just want to do something at the local level. But creating those opportunities for sharing is important. Anybody else? I see Judith Ziss. Ask to unmute. You need to unmute, Judith.
Yes, I'm talking from part of the Cape, but we have a smaller league on the Cape in Falmouth. And we have a very, very good social studies person here. Our league has been in touch with him. We fell in love, and he fell in love with the Needham League guide, and we have done our own version of it, which is just about to go public. We have a couple of little tweaks to take care of before, but we've done that, and he really liked it very, very much. We attended a couple of classes last year. They've decided they do not want to have a big event, but they do want to have individual classes where the students make presentations. So we have, last year we attended a couple of presentations. We're hoping to attend more, and we're hoping that more members of our league will attend them. This time it was just, we now have a civics committee. It was just the civics committee that was doing it. We are hoping to get more publicity out in the town so that people know this is going on. So when a student sends something to them, they understand it. And we're also trying to get a system set up where if students are having trouble making contact, we can maybe help them. Because with our league, there's got to be somebody in the league who probably knows the person that wants to be contacted. And we're hoping that there's a faculty member who's also a member of the league, and she's going to see if she can help get that set up. So we have several different things going on. The decision was made not to have a one big event. I did attend the one in Barnstable, and I enjoyed it very much, but we're going in a little different direction, but we are doing things.
That's okay, and that's great. I spoke with your social studies coordinator the other day, and he was very pleased with the kind of support he was getting from your league. So great job.
He's wonderful. He's wonderful.
Great. Elaine, did you want to say something? You got to unmute.
Yeah. I found this powerful. I'm a retired teacher,
And I just wondered, is there an opportunity for the students from one district to go and observe the presentations from another district? So they could learn from each other?
Well, I'm not aware of one, certainly we haven't yet created that opportunity here at the Cape, Elaine. Anybody else respond to that?
Well, isn't that what the DESI thing is going to be doing?
Yes, really the purpose of the state showcase, because students will be able to see when they go to the state showcase what other schools have done.
Will we know what the date is and the location for that?
Yes, it's going to be in late May, and they are about to send out a notice shortly when they on the date.
Okay, and that's something we could go to.
Yes, and actually we have offered, as part of the way that our state league would like to support that event. Another thing we did is to volunteer to recruit league members to go to the state event, showcase event, and to be judges for that event.
Oh.
So we'd really like to have people do that.
I'd be very interested in going, so keep my name, Karen.
I will, Elaine, thank you.
Do you know if it's a weekend, Karen?
No, I think that'll be a school day.
Oh. Okay, good.
We're getting a little bit over time. It's okay. We'll stay if there are any other questions.
Karen, Lucy Kennedy asked in the chat, are there any school districts west of Springfield that we, Berkshire County, can visit?
I'd have to research that for you. It's a good thing to, I know I could talk to the Generations Citizen people if they have work out there, and anybody else in the Mass Civic Learning Coalition. Also, the state people may know.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know you've done some work with our leader, Ramel.
Yes.
But hearing about these great showcases, I'm sure we're going to want to try to get involved with that as well.
Great. Somebody wants Karen Price to show the website for the link to the Needham video, the chat.
She did.
She did, yeah, okay, great. Anybody else? Well, I think that we are close to closing then, and Patty, you were going to have a couple of closing comments.
I really want to say thank you, Karen Mazza, to you, our fearless leader. So thank you for all the work that you've been doing to keep the planning group going, and all the wonderful input. And thanks to all the leagues who presented tonight. Really inspiring stuff. I wanted to mention that if people on this call are interested in being kept up to date with what's happening, we have a Civic Ed email group that Karen sends out periodic updates on. So if you're interested in being added to that list, just, you know what, I'm just going to put my email in the chat. Just email me and we'll add you to the list. So that's my email there. And otherwise, I just want to say thank you for joining us, and hopefully people are inspired to go forward and continue all this great work. Any last words, Karen?
Just thank you to everybody. Thank you for all of our presenters tonight and all the great work everybody's doing. And this is how change happens. As we know from any other change effort that we're involved in, it happens slowly over time. I think this year we're in good position to be able to pick up the pace a little bit and get more people involved. So thanks so much, all of you, for your interest. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.